After returning from my week-long honeymoon, I heard strange noises coming from inside the house. My heart started racing. Did you hear that? Maybe someone broke in. Should we call the police? I asked my husband, feeling nervous, but he didn't seem worried at all. It's fine, he said calmly and walked straight inside. I hurried after him and was shocked to find my mother-in-law and sister-in-law inside the house. I was relieved that they weren't burglars, but I was confused. They were supposed to take care of the house while we were away, but I thought they would leave once we got back. It's getting late. Don't you think you should go home now? I asked. We'll just stay here tonight, they said casually. Not only did they refuse to leave, but they made themselves comfortable in the living room and even used the shower without asking. I thought they would leave the next morning, but when I came home from work, they were still there. I couldn't take it anymore, so I asked my husband to tell them to leave, but his response shocked me. They're staying here. This is our home now, all of us together. If you don't like it, you can leave. He was kicking me out instead. Okay, I said, keeping my emotions in check. I packed a small suitcase with just the essentials and walked out. My name is Lily. I'm 29 years old and work as a magazine editor. I met my husband, Ben, 3 years ago through a friend. Before him, I hadn't really been in serious relationships. I was drawn to his confident and dependable nature, so different from me. He was the first to say, "I love you," and after dating for 3 years, he proposed. We got married. When we were planning our wedding and looking for a house, Ben handled everything smoothly. He seemed so reliable, and I loved our new life together. But there was one big problem: his mother, Diane, and his younger sister, Rachel. Ben's father had passed away 10 years ago, so his family was just Diane and 27-year-old Rachel. I had worried about getting along with them, but since we didn't interact much before marriage, I thought we could keep a comfortable distance. But after the wedding, they started making my life difficult. Diane called me almost every day, asking for more money. "Lily, can you increase my allowance just a little? I can't live properly with this amount." Since Ben handled our finances, I told her to ask him. "You're the reason he won't give me more, aren't you? A good daughter-in-law should take care of her husband's family, or bad luck will come your way." No matter what I said, she blamed me for everything. On top of that, she expected me to visit her all the time, help with housework, and send her favorite food every month. While she nagged me on the phone, Rachel would show up at our house uninvited. She often arrived while I was cooking. I was nearby, so I thought I'd stop by. "What's for dinner? I'm starving. Hurry up and serve me," she'd say. She would lounge on the couch until the food was ready, eat, and then leave. I told her many times to let me know before visiting and not to come so often. "Don't worry about it, I'm just dropping by. You can just make me whatever." She'd brush off my complaints. She didn't care how I felt, and arguing with her was pointless. I didn't want to be too harsh since she was Ben's sister. When I told Ben I was uncomfortable with how his mother and sister treated me, he did warn them a few times, so I didn't push back too hard, at least, not at first. 6 months after our wedding, Ben and I finally went on our honeymoon. Our busy work schedules had delayed it, but now we were off to Europe, ready to relax and have fun. The trip was amazing, and we enjoyed every moment, forgetting about our daily stress. After a wonderful, problem-free week, we returned home, only to hear noises coming from inside. I froze. Did you hear that? Maybe someone's inside. Should we call the police? I whispered, feeling uneasy. But Ben wasn't worried at all. "It's fine," he said, walking straight into the house. I quickly followed him and was shocked to find his mom, Diane, and his sister, Rachel, inside. I was relieved that they weren't burglars, but I had no idea why they were in our house. "Oh, you're back. Where's my souvenir?" Rachel demanded. "You got me that bracelet I asked for, right?" "Of course not," I said. "It was way too expensive." While the three of them chatted like nothing was wrong, I finally asked, "Why are you here?" Diane frowned. "Are you saying we're not welcome? An empty house can attract burglars while you're gone. We stayed here to protect it. You should be thankful." Apparently, they had offered to watch over the house, and Ben had given them a key. When I told him he should have asked me first, he just said they had asked him at the last minute. Since the house was still in one piece, I tried to be grateful, but then I looked around, and my mood changed instantly. Every room was a mess. Rachel's clothes filled our closet, with the rest piled up on the floor. The living room was covered in bags, clothes, remote controls, comic books. Things were scattered everywhere. Not just on the tables but even on the floor. I was exhausted from our flight, and now, instead of resting, I had to clean up their mess, but that wasn't even the worst part. I assumed Diane and Rachel would leave after we got home, but they didn't. It's getting late, shouldn't you both head home? I hinted. We'll just stay the night, they said casually. Not only did they refuse to leave, but they made themselves comfortable in the living room and even took showers without asking. They acted like they owned the place. The next morning, they were still there. When I came home from work that evening, they were still there. I finally told them it was time to leave. We're family, just pretend we're not here, Rachel shrugged. But how could I ignore them when I was the one cooking, cleaning, and doing the laundry? They weren't just staying, they were making me do all the work. I knew if I didn't make them leave, they would stay as long as they wanted. That's when I decided to ask Ben to tell them to go. While I was tidying up our room, I noticed something missing, my favorite perfume. It was a rare, limited edition bottle that cost over $300. I had been using it sparingly to make it last. I panicked and asked Diane if she had seen it. She acted like she had no idea I even owned perfume. When I turned to Rachel, she casually pulled it out of her bag and handed it back. The bottle was almost empty. It smells amazing, doesn't it? My friend loved it too, so I let her borrow some, she said, as if it was no big deal. She didn't even look sorry. I snapped. Why did you take it without asking? That's stealing. Didn't anyone ever teach you not to take other people's things? Rachel rolled her eyes. Relax, I just borrowed it for a bit. Why are you freaking out? If it was just borrowing, then replace what you used. Fine, I'll pay you back, she huffed, but it's already used, so I'll give you half the money. I don't want the money, I want my perfume replaced. You're being so dramatic over some stupid perfume. I know that brand, it's not even that. She stopped mid-sentence and checked the price on her phone. Whoa! Why is it so expensive? She gasped. Because it's valuable to me. I had never imagined that a relative would come into my room and use my things without asking. While I was arguing with Rachel, Ben came home. What's all the noise about? He asked. Ben, I only used a little bit of perfume, but she called me a thief, Rachel complained loudly. I left her to keep whining in the living room and explained everything to Ben. I told him I had had enough and wanted him to make them leave. Don't make a big deal out of a little thing. And by the way, I should have told you earlier, my mom and Rachel are going to live with us now, he said casually. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What do you mean? Why didn't you talk to me about this? Do you own this house alone? I pay the mortgage too, you know. It's not my fault. Mom decided to sell her house because it was falling apart, and we have extra rooms here. She'll save money and we're all going to live together now. I was shocked. Why didn't you tell me first? You can't just decide things without talking to me. He shrugged. We're living together now. If you don't like it, you can leave. I felt completely unheard, and it seemed like he was blaming me for everything. My feelings for him started fading fast. I understand, I said quietly and began packing a small bag with the essentials. Ben didn't try to stop me. He just called me immature for running away after a fight and walked out of the room. Diane and Rachel were smiling in the living room as they watched me pack. I locked the door behind me as I left the house, not planning on coming back. I went to a hotel and called my boss, asking for a few days off. During those days, I looked for a new place to stay and told my parents I had separated from Ben. When they asked me what I was going to do next, I told them I was getting a divorce. Ben sent me one message: when you realize your mistake, you can come back. Mom and Rachel say they'd forgive you. When I called to tell him I wanted a divorce, he tried to talk me out of it at first. You're divorcing me over something like this? You just need to put up with it, he said. But he eventually realized I was serious and agreed to the divorce. Everything moved quickly after that, and we finalized it in 6 months. I was done with him, so we went through the property division fast, and I left the house to him. Our marriage lasted less than a year. My friends and coworkers were shocked, and they kept asking what happened. I'd been avoiding talking about it, but this time, I shared everything with them. They all said, "That's unbelievable. I'm so sorry you had to go through that." It felt good to have their support. After moving out and living alone, I threw myself into work. I picked up more projects than usual and even helped out some of my overwhelmed colleagues. My boss noticed, but I was so busy that I barely thought about anything else. But, even though I kept myself distracted, the memories of the hard times started coming back, and I began to blame myself. I was thankful to have work to focus on. 5 months after the divorce, Ben called me. I had left most of my things behind when I left the house, so I thought he might want to talk about that. I answered, expecting him to bring it up. "Hey, what are you doing? Are you living alone now?" he asked, sounding strangely hesitant. He never used to hesitate, so I was confused. I didn't want to waste time, so I asked him straight up what he wanted. He told me he wanted to get back together. I had no intention of doing that, so I told him no and tried to hang up. He quickly stopped me. "Wait. There's something I didn't tell you," he said. "What is it?" "I'm busy," I replied. "Can you lend me some money? I'm having trouble paying the mortgage." I knew it was a shared responsibility before, so I understood that paying it all alone was tough for him. But I also knew he wasn't suddenly unable to make the payments. He explained that he had expected a raise, but it never came, and now they told him there wouldn't be a chance for one in the future. So, he decided to change jobs, thinking it would be easier to find something better. But instead, he only found a job that paid less, and he still hadn't been able to switch yet. I didn't want to lend Ben any money, no matter the reason. "Don't call me again," I told him. "You're still single, right? No one will want a divorced woman. You'd better get back with me," he said. I simply replied, "No, thank you," and ended the call. I couldn't understand how I had fallen for him and married him. I was so disappointed in myself for not seeing the red flags earlier. After that, both Ben and his family started harassing me. I found out that they had believed Ben made a good income just because we bought a house and had a big wedding. They thought I was the reason they weren't getting a larger allowance. When they realized their idea of a comfortable life was crumbling, they panicked and reached out to me, thinking they could get what they wanted from me. I wanted to block them all, but Ben knew where I worked. He called me a few times, but it was always about money. He complained about how much Diane and John were spending and how they were struggling to get by. One day, as expected, he called asking for a loan. "I don't have money to pay the mortgage this month," he said. I responded, "Actually, I'm planning to quit my job soon. I've used most of my savings, and now I need you to lend me money. If you think I'm lying, you can check with someone at work." He said, "I see," and hung up. He never called me again after that. Later, I heard that things had gotten worse for Ben. He ended up with a lower-paying job, and most of his salary went toward the mortgage. Rachel had an affair with her manager, and when his wife found out, she sued her. Rachel lost both her job and her friends. Ben's family ended up drowning in debt, struggling just to pay it off. As for me, I'm in a much better place. I recently started a web magazine with my university friend. I left my old job and used most of my savings to launch the company. It's a small startup, and I'm doing a lot of the work myself, but I love the challenge. I also started a new relationship with a guy I met at work. He respects my feelings and gives me the space I need. Thanks to him, I've realized that Ben wasn't the strong leader I thought he was just selfish. Now, I'm feeling positive about my future and excited to nurture my new happiness.